Hey, good to see you. Thanks for coming. It's another episode of Wireframe, and today we're going to be talking about OK and cancel. Right, so actually there hasn't been a Wireframe episode in a little while, actually all week. It's Friday now, and if you're watching on the video right now, you'll see I have the Jimmy Neutron hair. I don't know what's going on there, but for the audio folks, you just have to catch that later. But I've been doing a lot of reflection, retrospection about this show. In fact, I was watching a video by a YouTube creator called Swoozy, and he's been on YouTube for quite a while. He's a content creator, animator, influencer. And he had a video that was not necessarily related to exactly what I was going to be talking about this part of the video, but he was talking more about how all the movies in theaters are basically the same movie, and if you come out with something that's like new, people don't want to see it because they've never seen the franchise before. So that's where we're getting all the reboots and the sequels and also this stuff, because it's the same franchise and it's like very stable money. But it's a video you can find with yourself. What I want to talk about a little bit is actually one of the things he said, which is that your friends want to share your stuff, right? And they want to see you succeed, as long as, you like the stuff that you're making, right? And that hit me hard. I really enjoy the blog posts that I write. I really enjoy the microsites that I make in order to go deeper into more concepts. But this show, I still don't like it yet. So what does that mean? That means that I'm probably going to change the format. Hold on a second before anyone gets, out of whack. We're going to stay on YouTube, so that's definitely happening because YouTube is absolutely the place for video. You might know by this time now that I've also been simulcasting over to a podcast service. So once this episode is complete, it actually gets uploaded automatically, which is excellent, over to a podcast service where you can subscribe through things like Apple Music and Spotify and things like that. So none of that is changing. It'll still be the same delivery of this media. It's just that this format has been bothering me. And the format's been bothering me because it's just me talking to you for 20 minutes. There's really no discussion or dialogue that's happening. And a big part of that is because of the technical limitations of my current setup. Most people end up using something like a StreamYard or a Descript or something like that that gets multiple people in very easily, and I don't use that because I don't want to pay for a subscription service in order to do that. That's me being cost effective, let's call it, for this. So for the longest time, I've been trying to figure out, how do I introduce guests on this show? And in fact, the new website has the same form from the old website, and it has a form so you could submit and be on the show. And in fact, I was overlooking the responses in there, and there's, about a dozen responses, which is pretty good for a podcast that admittedly I don't actually share out, which is exactly the thing that I was kind of getting to in the original video that I was watching, is that, if I don't share it out, how can I possibly expect my friends to share this out or other colleagues to share this out, right? And if you're listening to this right now, I really do appreciate you listening to this because, again, I am quite literally just rambling on this show, and I want that to stop. I really want it to be more of a dialogue or discussion kind of format, which is why I've finally figured out how to do that from a technical point of view. Now, it actually happening is going to take a little while because in order to do it, I'm effectively going to change the way that this which is me waving my hands around in the camera, looks. So in order for me to make that actually change, I'm going to be changing where I am for the show and setting it up a little bit. The idea, and before I get too much away, is for it to be a talk show-like format. I'm going to end it right there because I need to do some things in order to make that work. But that's what's in my head. I have a really creative way of making this happen. But hopefully that'll happen soon. It's going to, like I said, take a little while for me to actually make that work. But if you are interested to be a guest on the show, talk to me about something that's on your mind about design, development, and disambiguating our digital world. Let's do it. Right? I have some people that haven't actually submitted on the form that I do want to reach out to get their opinions and insights on stuff too as well. But I'm actually really excited about what might be the new format to make it a little bit more engaging and something more shareable that I would be more proud of me just, again, talking to you. So anyway, we're going to get there. Now, on to the actual topic for today, right, which was OK and cancel. And if you have any kind of interest inside of design, you are probably familiar with the idea of OK and cancel and how they have lots of opinions out there about where they could be placed in certain lockups and in certain larger compositions. So I'm pulling this out of my archives of things that I've found on the internet that I would like to talk about. So I'm going to go ahead and show you the post that I saw. And for the folks, again, who are just listening in, this is a post from Vitily Freriedman, who is the organizer of Smashing Conf and behind Smashing Magazine. And he posts on LinkedIn all the time about different kinds of resources for UX and engineering. And this post was about 4 months ago, so recent in the overall time of design, but the general thing that he's explaining here is the idea between OK and cancel and OK. And there's a person who he links out to. We're going to see the post here in a minute, where this person is I'm saying this person because I'm not sure I'm going to pronounce the name properly. It's Joao Conceição. There's no way I'm saying that right. There's a lot of extra diacritics in there that I'm just not familiar with. But effectively, what this person is saying is they suggest to take it in context about which of those buttons is supposed to be first. So they are suggesting that in some cases, it should be listed as cancel and OK. In other cases, it should be OK and cancel. And here's my hot take. I disagree. You saw that coming, right? So there's a couple of other checklist parts that are in here, and then, of course, links to other things. And in fact, Adam Silver, who I agree with often on these kinds of things, we're going to be looking at his post. Is that confirmation bias? Possibly. But in the first post that actually Vitily is linking to in the beginning, there is this image. And again, for the people who are listening here, this is an image of a dialogue that's in Microsoft Windows versus Apple and its Mac OS. And what you see in this is that the two large OS distributors out there actually have different ways of organizing these two buttons, right? On Windows, the OK or the confirmation is first, and there's going to be a key for later, but the confirmation is first and then it's cancel. And then for Apple, they have it as the confirmation is last, okay? And again, this post is explaining lots of potential reasons, of directions of why you might do that. But Adam Silver takes it a little bit further in terms of the thinking about this, and I do agree with a lot of the stuff that he's saying in here. All right. Before we actually get into that, I'm going to give you my opinion, and I'll see some of the other directions that Adam's putting in there because he has a lot of good visuals of some of the stuff that I'm going to explain. So the way that I think about the order of OK and cancel comes from an accessibility point of view. Imagine you're unable to see the composition of the buttons, right? All you're able to do is listen to what is being announced to you as you traverse this page, right? So if you're traversing this particular page and you come up to a message and the message says, hey, do you want to blank? What's the next thing that you would expect to see, right? Now, if, as a user experience designer, you want them to do the thing that you're asking them to do, then your primary action, right, the thing that you're expecting the users to take on the page, should be first. Has nothing to do with its placement on the left or the right or whatever, has nothing to do with that. Has everything to do with the order of the elements that are on the page, right? First, you give them the choice of the thing that you know they may or may they may or may not want to do. Then you give them the ability to make that choice, right? Do you want to actually do it, right? And if you expect them to do it, then that means that the confirmation, the primary button, should be first, right? Do you want to, I don't know, save your changes, right? The save button should be first, right? Aside the fact that it should be saving normally anyway, right? Over time, we should have auto saving, generally speaking. But let's just say, for argument's sake, you had this: do you want to save? The save button should be first, and then if they don't want to save, the next option would be cancel, right? So that's just from a pure ordering standpoint, right? Give the user the option of what they want to do, then give them the ability to do it, right? Boom and boom. And if they don't want to, then it's the next thing, right? It's the cancel after that. Now this goes into a different idea. It's the same idea actually, but it's a different composition when it comes to destructive stuff, right? When it comes to destructive stuff, as a user experience designer, I don't want them to destroy anything. I want them to be very, deliberate about if you're going to actually make this destructive thing. So in those particular cases, in my opinion, you don't actually put the destructive action first. You allow them to cancel it first. And that's, again, the reason for that ordering. Now, that's assuming that you must have buttons for your destructive action. We're going to talk about that in a little bit also. But let's go back to Adam Silver's post about button layouts with that kind of thing in mind. So in Adam's post, the first kind of image he has here is he has a right-aligned button, which he doesn't agree with, and a left-aligned button in a form, which he does agree with. And I also agree with that, right? Just from a visual standpoint, scannability, leaving everything on the left edge is really nice. And he actually does go on to say that if you zoom in, for, again, accessibility purposes there, it's really hard to see the label, or I should say all the labels in that form field on the line when your button is completely out of frame. Right? So keeping them all in that one line is actually really helpful from the zoom perspective. He explains to put the back button next to the primary button as a bad practice, and then putting the back button above the form as a good practice. And I think that I agree with that as well, because that effectively would be, resetting the form or reverting the form, right? So you don't want to have that anywhere close to you actually confirming the form. You want it to be separate. So probably a little bit different from what we're talking about versus OK and cancel, but overall a good point of advice. This one's really interesting. He has the put tangentially related actions above the form. What does this mean? Well, in this example here, he has a login form, and on the login form, everything is left aligned except for forgot password. And this is very common for a lot of places, right? Forgot password is typically on the same line as the label password, and that just ends up making everything move up a little bit, right? Keeps the space so nice and tight. But the issue with this, as he's explaining here, is that the eye has this like ragged edge. It goes back and forth to try to like scan all the information that's on here. What he's actually suggesting is to have everything, again, left aligned on one side. Okay, and I agree with it. In fact, it's actually in one of my examples in my system I'm going to go to over here, where the login form, which is right now it's huge over here, but in the login form, I also have everything left aligned in it. And that wasn't necessarily anything that I was really being conscious of in terms of its placement. It ended up just kind of being a constraint for my lockup component, because the lockup component really doesn't allow anything to be on the right-hand side. It only allows everything to be on the left-hand side. But I actually like that there's a reason for it now, is again to keep that visual eye all the way down, and also for the zooming, which I think is really nice. Place the extra buttons based on what they do. He has an example here. He has to not do the cancel button on the same row, and to have the instead to have the cancel button on a separate line. And I think that's okay. Again, I think it maybe goes a little bit back to the back button example where, you don't want to have a person necessarily revert everything that they've done in the same place where they're about to confirm their changes, right? So something to be a little bit careful about, especially for, motor skills and things like that, to potentially stay away from that idea. I mean, admittedly, I actually don't like to have more than 2 buttons in this kind of lockup ever, just because multiple choices make it difficult for people to choose what to do. But overall, that would be my recommendation. Another thing that Adam's talking about here is, a thing to not do is to add another button next to the primary button. He recommends to put a button above or, I guess, below, we'll see in another case, the primary button. I don't know about this in particular. I'm not exactly sure about this, in my opinion, in terms of just the lockup of things. This is going to be this is going to be a purely visual thing, generally speaking. This is also going to be kind of different in terms of trying to maintain the DOM order, right? Because you don't want things to be flying around between, positions between different DOM orders. So I don't know if I really recommend this in particular, because especially like in the recommendation he has here, this would require the DOM order to be different, where like the continue button wouldn't is visually last, but because of what we're talking about earlier, that confirmation should be first of in the DOM order for accessibility. So I don't know if I necessarily agree with this in particular. But I can't, I don't agree with everything. And actually, where's this? Oh, I see. Okay, so this is a specific kind of button. It's the add another button, and then it's continue. Okay, so he's talking about the order. And in this particular case, I don't know if I would necessarily lock them up so closely together. I would rather have an add another situation in this kind of lockup here, and then continue being lower in the composition. That's probably what I end up doing. And then, yeah, I guess we're going to be going into more specific kind of like button kinds of buttons in here. I'm trying to see if there's anything else. Yeah, it's more specific kinds of buttons that are moving on down here. But yeah, overall it's a really good post, and again, it's really thoughtful in terms of the composition of these buttons and which buttons to go where and all that kind of stuff. But again, I think the real rule of thumb that I'm getting to is that think about it from a user who can't see and how that order is meant to be portrayed, right? So the order basically saying, here's the choice that you're about to make, here's what we expect you to make as a choice, right? Now, remember I was telling you about how destructive actions should probably be reversed because we don't want them to be doing any destructive actions. However, there's other patterns to be doing that are not just a destructive button. And one of those patterns is an example that came out of GitHub that I saw years ago that I actually keep referencing in some of my talks, but I've recreated it here. And it is the double confirmation replacement, right? So effectively what will happen sometimes is you'll have a modal, it pop up, and you'll have, do you really want to, delete this thing, right? Well, instead of having this modal that disrupts the user that's doing this double confirmation thing, instead, what GitHub does, especially if you're going to like delete repos or delete profiles and things like that, they actually have their confirmation in line, in the page. And in order to do that, you'd actually have to type in the name of the repo or something like that in here, and then hit delete, right? And that becomes a lot more deliberate than you just hitting another button, right? You typing in this and to confirm the deletion is just a lot better as a pattern to make sure that you're absolutely sure that you're going to delete this thing. I've seen it in a couple of other areas where it's like a technical thing, like you delete a database and maybe Superbase, I think they do it. But that's what I would recommend instead of the modal pop-up, and to really just avoid this dance about which destructive action goes first, right? So I really like that as a pattern to, again, avoid modals overall, because I just don't like modals. I think they're anti-pattern typically. And the reason why there's a modal page on my system is specifically to tell people about other things to do other than modals, right? So it's like a, it's a, what is it? It's bait and switch, I guess. But anyway, that's what I wanted to kind of talk about today, is to really just think about the user experience part of it, not necessarily the visual part of it, right? And I know there's going to be some people who are going to say, well, hold on a second, if I right align everything, right, then the visual balance is off, right? Because if you put the OK button, which is the, usually a primary button, and then you have the cancel button after that, well, because the cancel button is all the way to the right, it looks like the OK button is like visually in a weird spot, right? I've definitely gotten that feedback all the time. The answer to that is just left align everything. I don't understand why you need to make it hard for yourself, right? We already have a solution. We've seen it. Just left align it. And it's the better solution, right? Because we even saw the zoom in problem, right? Even the visual aligning that happens all the way on the left. So honestly, most of the time, just keep it on the left. There will be some caveats in there, like I think wizards, as an example. I think there's definitely a different kind of composition for wizards that's trying to show the passage of time. So there's definitely something in there. But again, for general lockups of primary button, cancel button, and some choices to make, generally speaking, it's just gonna be that way, at least for me. But let me know what you think. You can put it in the comments. Play nice down there. I do want to also bring up an event that's coming up on Wednesday next week here in New York. If you're going to be around, this is going to be on the 23rd, which is on Wednesday, believe it or not. Yeah, I think so. This is the UXDX meetup that I go to on a regular basis. It'll be at the Priceline headquarters in the Empire State Building. And you can see who will be speaking at I think this is a panel. Yeah, it's a candid conversation. And I know a couple of the people already here. Wesley, I do know. Wesley is actually at Priceline, and I speak to him on a regular basis when I visit the offices for these meetups. We end up chatting a lot. And Natalia's here, who was formerly at GitHub, now at Datadog. And those are the two people that I do know. I probably have met Steve before, but I don't think I've talked to him at length. And then Ashton, I don't think I've met unless I was not paying attention, which is totally possible. I do meet a lot of people, and I like meeting a lot of people, and I apologize if I don't remember you sometimes. Actually, there's one thing in particular I remember. I have a friend of mine, Dimitri, who is working for a company called Dave. And because I don't typically think about the word or the name Dimitri all the time, I ended up calling him Dave one day. And he didn't call me out on it until later. And I realized, oh crap, his name's Dimitri. So I'm sorry, Dimitri, but shout out to you. Thanks for being a good sport on that. I'm gonna just attribute it to being older. Anyway, so yeah, if you're gonna be in New York next week, specifically on Wednesday, we'd love to see you at the event to chat things about design systems. And it's designers who code, coders who design. So all those UX engineers that I know are out there, there's a big group of them. This is definitely a good meetup for you folks to be a part of. But that's the show for today. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Have a great one. Bye.